You can just hang outside in the sun all day tossing a ball around. Or you can sit at your computer and do something that matters.
Make Love, Not Warcraft is arguably South Park's most iconic episode. It was voted the #1 episode in their Year of the Fan poll, holds an insane 9.5 rating on IMDb. Oh yeah, and just won an Emmy, you know, no big deal.
South Park, Make Love, Not Warcraft.
Many people consider this the greatest episode of all time. Even people who don't usually watch South Park or play World of Warcraft still adore this episode. So how did this happen? How did this episode end up becoming South Park's magnum opus? How did they convince Blizzard Entertainment to help them make it? And why did co-creator Trey Parker beg to have this episode pulled the night before it aired? Lucky for you guys, I have all the answers. Not only am I a South Park nerd, I'm also, unfortunately, a World of Warcraft nerd, which is probably exposing the fact that I haven't felt the touch of a woman in years, but that's irrelevant. The point is, I'm finally making a video where I can be considered an expert in the topic I'm covering. Yeah, no armchair analysis for this video, no hours of research, learning about a religion, a health condition, nope. Just straight up neckbeard knowledge for this one. Before we break down this episode and how it came to be, we should first start with the question, what is World of Warcraft?
Anything can slow the explosive growth of the intoxicating game called World of Warcraft.
Teenager hooked on violent computer games. He's playing them an incredible 16 hours a day.
All right, drums up. Ready, guys? Let's do this. Leroy
Released by Blizzard Entertainment in 2004, World of Warcraft is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, otherwise known as an MMORPG. Within a couple months after its release, it became a commercial success, quickly becoming the most popular MMORPG of all time. It wasn't the first MMORPG, you had games like EverQuest, Ultima Online, and RuneScape, but WoW was the first of its kind to make a splash into the mainstream world.
Let's just say that I had to quit the game for a good going on a year now.
Which one?
World of Warcraft.
A game like World of Warcraft is a lot different from your typical video game. There is no real end to it. You don't just buy it, beat it, and then move on to the next one. These are games that could essentially last forever. Assuming a healthy player base, MMORPGs will see consistent updates, expansions, even mechanics within the game to keep people playing longer. As you can imagine, all of this is a recipe for gaming addiction and real-life neglect, which is exactly what South Park is satirizing in this episode. They're not ripping on people who play these games, just the people who let it take control of their lives.
Have fun with it and then do other stuff. Even the people, when we did this episode in conjunction with the people at Blizzard, even they were like, boy, some of these people are losers that play this game all the time.
So how is World of Warcraft holding up today, nearly 20 years after this episode released? Well, it's very much still alive. As of making this video, Blizzard has released 10 different expansions of the game and has made close to $10 billion. The game currently has multiple versions that you can play. WoW is no longer just one single game because starting in 2019, they released Classic WoW. And this classic version has led to seasonal servers, hardcore servers, and one server stuck in time from the year 2006, which is actually the version of WoW the boys are playing in this South Park episode. The most popular version according to viewership is hardcore, where if you die in the game, you die in real life. Okay, but in all seriousness, if you die in this mode, your character is gone forever.
Don't run, finish! Finish! Don't run, finish!
Now that we have a basic understanding of what World of Warcraft is, let's talk about how this episode came to be.
Yeah, with Warcraft in particular, I remember half our office was playing it. I mean, it was everyone, you'd go by computer screens and it was either South Park or Warcraft.
This is one of the rare ideas for the show that just happen naturally. Most South Park episodes involve hours of brainstorming, looking into pop culture, world news. This episode came out of Matt and Trey noticing their animators playing WoW while at work. And Trey Parker, being a massive nerd, he decided to try out the game as well.
And I mean, World of Warcraft was a great game and did a lot of things for the industry, but like after about 20 hours of playing it, I was like, this is kind of the same thing over and over again. And I got bored with it.
Thankfully for us, Trey didn't get addicted to the game, but he did still want to make an episode about it. There were some glaring concerns though. Most importantly, how would they do the animation within the game? The conversation started during the production of Season 9, right after the famous Trapped in the Closet episode came out.
Dad, Tom Cruise won't come out of the closet.
Trey held a meeting with the studio, seeing what could be done about creating a World of Warcraft episode. He wanted the in-game stuff to be full 3D, not the animation style that defines the normal South Park look, and not only that, he also told them he wanted this to be the finale episode for Season 9. This means that they would have 2 weeks to figure out how to do all of this animation while still working on another episode in the meantime. Remember, this is back when South Park was doing an episode in just 6 days. Trey was told some bad news that this was not realistic at all and maybe not even possible to do within 2 weeks. So the idea was scrapped for almost an entire year. Thankfully, they didn't give up on this episode forever, and the conversations continued the following season. Instead of creating their own animation just to make this episode, technology supervisor JJ Franzen suggested trying to shoot the in-game stuff, well, actually in the game. Franzen had been following Machinima off and on for years, and he knew some of their creators were getting decent results out of World of Warcraft. He ended up showing Trey a Machinima short film made in World of Warcraft called Return. It obviously looks dated now because it's a re-upload and from 2005, but this little film was enough to show Trey that it could be done. Once their hearts were set on making this episode happen, they figured there was nothing to lose and might as well see if Blizzard would help them out with it. Blizzard was absolutely thrilled with the idea, despite knowing that their game could be massively made fun of. They were on board from the start. The next day, they sent over 3 people with a Game Master client and started shooting some test footage. The test went okay, but Trey Parker, being a perfectionist, did have some issues. He wanted to have lip sync that would match the character's words and more accurate facial expressions, which the in-game emotes couldn't accomplish. Getting Blizzard's full permission to use their in-game assets, they used a program called Maya, which would allow them to edit the in-game character models to be a lot more smooth. And now that they had animation that would please Trey and the overwhelming support of Blizzard, history would soon be made. Now that we have a basic understanding of World of Warcraft and how this episode came to fruition, it's time to break it down. But first, do me a solid and check if you're subscribed. Considering my abysmal upload consistency, this might be the only way to know when a new video drops. On that note, I am done being shameless. Here is South Park's most iconic episode.
Mom! Bathroom!
What, huh?
Bathroom! Bathroom!
The episode begins in World of Warcraft, at one of the most iconic towns in the game, known as Goldshire.
Dude, I just took the biggest crap.
If you've played WoW before, you know what goes down here. If you haven't, well, let's just say this is where the role players hang out. Some of us lost our innocence in this very town. The boys are annoyed with Cartman for taking way too long to get back online. Relatable, honestly. Kyle urges them to get moving so they can start finishing some quests. Stan then gets interrupted by his dad, who suggests he should be out socializing instead of sitting on the computer all weekend.
I am socializing, Artard. I'm logged on to an MMORPG with people from all over the world and getting XP with my party using TeamSpeak.
Oh yeah, the days before Discord. I was more of a Ventrilo user, but yeah, back in the day it was either TeamSpeak or Ventrilo, and everyone had a headset mic that sounded like they were underwater.
You are going to DPS very, very slowly.
Maximum nostalgia for the mid-2000s gamer right here. After Randy leaves the room, we get a glimpse of Stan's screen on the game. So, one thing I'll mention now to get it out of the way, South Park got a lot of stuff wrong in this episode in terms of accuracy to the actual game. The levels of their characters, to the gear they're wearing, the towns and spells they call out. A lot of stuff doesn't make sense if you're comparing it to World of Warcraft. Personally, this doesn't matter to me at all, despite being a WoW nerd myself. I don't think it makes the episode any less amazing. I just thought I would mention this because I'm not going to correct all of their mistakes, because the truth is, if you're a WoW player, you already know, and if you're not, well, then it doesn't matter. As the boys are on their way to finally start playing, Stan recognizes another player in the game, who instantly starts emoting on them. They tell Kyle this guy was killing them last night while they were trying to finish quests. Kyle assures the boys that it's fine, because he can't kill them unless they agree to duel. Well, that turns out to not be true.
Oh my god, he killed Kenny! You bastard!
And he proceeds to massacre them all. We then get to see the face of our antagonist, who actually doesn't get a name this episode. On the script, he did have a name though, and it was Noob's Boner. Good one, guys. His actual name was later revealed to be Jenkins in a frequently asked questions post on South Park Studios, but I never heard Matt or Trey ever refer to his actual name, other than what was in the script. The name Jenkins is obviously a reference to the viral video Leroy Jenkins, which I showed earlier in this video. Now for the most interesting part of this character. Like most characters in South Park, which are inspired by real life people, this one is too. And no, it's not this guy. Sick cosplay though, rest in peace. His real inspiration was actually a senior project manager at Blizzard at the time named Joey Ray Hall. Hall led the team that helped South Park with this episode, and was perfectly happy being depicted as the neckbeard loser. Oh, and if this isn't interesting enough for you, this man is also the father of YouTuber/Twitch streamer Pirate Software.
No, my dad didn't inspire the WoW guy from South Park. My dad is the WoW guy from South Park.
Yeah, there's so much random lore throughout this episode, and we're only a few minutes in so far. Lock in, guys. After getting killed by Jenkins for 2 nights in a row, the boys decide to call Blizzard customer service to complain about it. The employee says the game is designed so players can't kill each other unless they agree to duel.
Yeah, well, this guy does it anyways. He's a goddamn butthole.
We learn that the boys aren't the only ones getting griefed by this player, and it's gotten so out of hand that Blizzard is actually having a meeting about it. They suggest basic stuff like having him banned and removed from the servers, but this man is apparently so god mode he's actually able to kill Blizzard admins. I've actually seen someone say they don't like this episode because of how unrealistic this storyline is with Jenkins being too powerful, which is kind of ridiculous. Like, come on, we're watching a show with crab people, talking feces, and Mormonism being the correct religion. Having a character in WoW being able to kill admins isn't that crazy. One of the employees gets up in a panic saying that he has to get home because his kids are playing World of Warcraft right now.
Your kids' characters are already dead. No, they just started playing!
I love this line so much. If you don't know, dying in World of Warcraft is really no big deal. You pretty much just have to run back to your corpse and your armor gets slightly damaged. So the way they make death seem so serious in this episode is pretty funny to any WoW player. One of the Blizzard employees asks what kind of person they're dealing with here. And we get one of the most iconic lines in the entire episode.
We are dealing with someone here who has absolutely no life. How do you kill that which has no life?
The boys decide to take matters into their own hands. Cartman holds a meeting for all the boys in class that play WoW. He proposes an idea that if they all log on together, they might actually stand a chance of beating this guy. Most of them get really fired up about the idea, except for Clyde, who says it's a waste of time.
Clyde, if you had a chance right now to go back in time and stop Hitler, wouldn't you do it? I mean, I personally wouldn't stop him because I think it was awesome, but you would, right?
This is easily one of my favorite Cartman lines in the entire show. It just perfectly embodies who he is at his core. I feel like you can't have a top South Park episode without a little bit of unhinged Cartman, but maybe that's just me. Clyde says that he's just gonna stop playing, and Cartman goes on to say that a lot of people stopped playing when Hitler rose to power.
The French. Are you French, Clyde? No. Voulez-vous coucher avec moi, Clyde? All right, I'll do it.
You know, everyone always gives France a hard time about World War II, but I don't know, man, those were some methed up Nazis. A blitzkrieg fueled by amphetamines sounds pretty horrifying. Just a random shower thought, don't mind me. After Clyde agrees to help, Eric tells them all to log in at 7:30 so they can take this guy down once and for all.
I don't play World of Warcraft. Butters, you said you're on your computer all the time.
Yeah, but I'm playing Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
The way he's smiling after he says that is so cute for some reason. So what if I told you Hello Kitty Island Adventure is a real game? Because it is. Well, it wasn't during the time this episode was released, but as of 2023, there's in fact a pretty popular game with this exact title. According to the game's creators, this is just a coincidence. They deny any type of inspiration from South Park. I'm not buying that out of the hundreds of people who worked on this game, none of them knew this name was used in an episode of South Park. This line from Butters was actually turned into a pretty big meme back in the day as well. Whenever someone complained of something being too hard in a game, a common roast was, well, you should just go play Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Some people were even saying this despite not seeing this episode. My point is, this line reached well outside of the South Park fandom. We get a scene of Randy, who has apparently made his own World of Warcraft account. His work buddy Nelson walks up and asks if he's playing a computer game.
No, Artard, it's an MMORPG.
The good old days when Randy was easily a top 3 character. I'm not like a massive hater of his modern day character like a majority of South Park fans are, but I do miss Randy in his prime. After schooling Nelson on what World of Warcraft is,
I've braved the Fargo Deep Mine, defeated the Bloodfish at Jared's Landing.
Looks like that guy just killed you.
the next scene shows us that the boys have followed through with their plan, and they've now gathered together to try and take down their griefer. We get to see all of the characters from the boys in the class, which I find pretty cool.
All right, Eric, you can count on us. Timmy!
A funny little detail is that Jimmy and Timmy are the only ones here who are wearing default level 1 gear. I have to imagine that they did this on purpose, but I guess we'll never know. While Cartman is giving his speech to hype up the boys, we learn that Butters has joined the game.
Hey, fellas! Boy, this is neato, huh? Butters, what the hell are you doing?
This is one of the inaccuracies that was almost certainly done on purpose. Obviously, Butters wouldn't be able to get all of that gear right away. I just wanted to bring up the fact that some of the mistakes even Trey would have been well aware of after 20 hours of gameplay. So it's likely that he sacrificed accuracy within the game to make a better joke, which is obviously the right thing to do. Cartman proceeds to bully our poor Butters into creating a new character. Meanwhile, Jenkins is massacring innocent players nearby. They suddenly spot him and start preparing for battle.
Scroll over him with your mouse cursors! And right-click!
The battle begins and we get some epic gameplay footage. Something really cool about all of this in-game footage that we get is every single character you see on the screen is controlled by a real-life person. Whether it's people who work for South Park Studios or people that Blizzard sent over, everyone is working together and playing the game at the same time to make this all happen. It's not just added animation or anything like that.
But I'm gonna poop on my pants.
Ike, look out!
A nerd fact here, Ike is actually the player in their group with the best gear. Most boys in the class are wearing a mishmash of leveling gear, but Ike is wearing the Devout set, which you can only get from endgame dungeons. God, I sound like a virgin. Anyways, I do wonder the thought process. Somebody at Blizzard probably thought making Ike, who literally poops his pants, have the best gear was a pretty funny inside joke. Oh yeah, this scene also gives us this gem.
All right, Clyde, hit him with your crossbow! Hit him now, Clyde! Clyde? Clyde!
Randy makes an appearance wanting to play with them, but by this point, the battle is already lost. This causes them to rage quit, and the boys decide to stop playing World of Warcraft. Except for Eric Cartman, of course. He's a lot of things, but he's no quitter. When someone wrongs him, he will go to extreme lengths to make that person suffer. He proposes them a wild idea that if they can't finish quests, they should just stay in the forest killing boars. Kyle lets him know that's insane because boars only give 2 experience points each.
Do you know how many we would have to kill to get up 30 levels?
Yes. 65,340,285.
Some of you watching might be wondering if this is actually possible within the game. Oh, you weren't wondering? Too bad, because I'm going to tell you anyways. A YouTuber named Classic Wins made a video over 5 years ago and proved that it is technically possible to kill boars all the way to level 60. However, you would have to move around a bunch and kill many different kinds of boars all over the world. You wouldn't be able to sit down in one spot grinding them over and over again because there's a cap on XP if you're too high level against the monster you're killing. Just over-explaining something that doesn't matter at all, it's what I'm best at. Eric somehow convinces them to go through with this boar genocide plan. He's even calculated an entire schedule where it will take them over 7 weeks if they limit themselves to only 3 hours of sleep per night. I've seen some degenerate gamers in my years, none as dedicated as our heroes Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny. We get a quick update of the Blizzard staff who are pretty much in full panic mode. They come to the realization that if they don't stop this guy soon,
Gentlemen, this could very well lead to the end of the world of Warcraft. No! No!
We then get one of the most inspirational training montages in history. I mean, seriously, not even Rocky IV could compare to this legendary piece of media right here. It actually physically hurts me that I can't play any audio for this part due to the music, but it's Live to Win by Paul Stanley. Let me just say that this part hyped up every gamer in existence when they saw it. There's literally a 10-hour version on YouTube with 1.4 million views where all the comments are talking about this episode and how they're grinding a game to it. Just brings a tear to my eye. Turns out playing World of Warcraft every waking minute has some consequences. The boys start getting as fat as Cartman, and Cartman turns into Jabba the Hutt. You know, it's funny how a lot of people imagine gaming addicts who play this much to all be fat. I feel like the true degen gamers are all skin and bones because food is technically XP waste after all. Meanwhile, the Blizzard staff gets notified how the boys are leveling very quickly and they now have some hope, or a chance, for World of Warcraft to be saved. The staff looks into their characters and comes to the realization they're still not powerful enough to defeat Jenkins. So they try to come up with a way to help the boys when one of them suggests,
"What about the Sword of 1,000 Truths?"
Quiet, Thomas. We aren't to even speak of that sword.
We're told that when World of Warcraft was created, there was a sword so powerful it was removed from the game and stored on a 1 gig flash drive. The prophecy tells that one day players worthy of the sword might reveal themselves.
Who foretold this prophecy?
Saltzman. He's in accounting.
I don't know why this part is so funny to me, just some random employee from accounting. The staff now has a goal to get this sword to the boys before they start the battle. The boys, being unaware of this, have already started preparing on their own. I love the little detail of Kenny having the most out-of-date computer. Kyle mentions that this fight could last for over 12 hours. What if they run out of food?
Ma'am?
Yes, hon.
More Hot Pockets!
Right away, hon.
That's uber cool.
The boys start hunting down Jenkins and they spot him in Goldshire. You might not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like. They approach him and get ready for battle. We then see for the first time, Jenkins is actually taking this very seriously. He has now entered gremlin posture. Meanwhile, the Blizzard employees show up to Stan's house to try and deliver him the sword.
"We are looking for a great knight by the name of Loves to Spooge."
His character's name earlier in the episode was actually Stan is Cool, so this is a little goof they forgot about. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I prefer Loves to Spooge anyways. They ask Randy where his son is and tell him that it's urgent. If they can't find Stan, then his character will die.
Oh my god.
They find out that Stan isn't home and they ask Sharon and she tells them he took his computer somewhere to play that stupid online game. They tell her that if they don't find Stan, his character is going to die.
So what?
So what?
One of the Blizzard guys says that if they can get to a computer, they can deliver the sword to Stan in the game. The only problem is,
I don't have a World of Warcraft account, do you?
No, I have a life.
Randy, being the only one with an account, takes upon the responsibility to deliver this legendary weapon. Now they just have to get to a computer that works.
Please, it's an emergency! Come on!
By this point, the boys are very deep into their battle. Suddenly, Kyle gets injured. He apparently has a serious case of carpal tunnel.
Quick, we need men gang!
After pushing Kyle to keep on fighting, another issue arises.
I'm gonna have diarrhea again. You can't go to the bathroom, you're stacking Sunder Armor.
What Stan says here actually makes sense. Sunder Armor is an ability Cartman's character would have and be expected to use as a warrior. See, it's not like they got everything wrong. Anyways, Cartman has a solution to his diarrhea issue.
Mom! Bathroom!
What, hon?
Bathroom! Bathroom!
Oh, that's a big boy, isn't he?
Doesn't even wipe. Right back to gaming, a true warrior right here. While driving, Randy spots a Best Buy and rushes inside.
Got to sign in.
I've seen this episode like 20 times and I've never noticed until analyzing it that the kid here is wearing Chin Pokemon merch. Am I the only one? There's also a sneaky reference to the Burning Crusade, which was WoW's first expansion being advertised at this time. The boys are losing the fight pretty badly by this point and Stan runs away to heal, when suddenly Randy arrives with the sword.
How do you hand something from one player to another?
As he hands it off, Randy is ruthlessly murdered. But with this new sword that will completely drain his mana, the boys now have the upper hand.
Looks like you're about to get pwned. Yeah!
This is followed by some elite roleplay by Randy and Stan. Most importantly, World of Warcraft has been saved.
What do we do now? What do you mean? Now we can finally play the game.
Another iconic line that lives on outside of the South Park fandom. The end credits roll and Make Love Not Warcraft would go down in history as the best gaming episode in all of television. So why did Trey Parker want to have this episode pulled?
And I was like, please, I was begging and I was like, do not let this go on the air because I don't want the South Park legacy to be ruined, and this show is going to ruin it because it's so bad. I just went home and I was depressed and couldn't sleep, and I got up the next day and they're like, dude, people really like that show. And it was about World of Warcraft.
It pretty much boils down to Trey being a perfectionist as well as suffering from imposter syndrome. It's not uncommon for him to hate his work. For this episode in particular, it was such a different type of production, he was deep in his head and overthinking it. There's a lot I couldn't cover during the analysis, so let's speedrun some of the other cool stuff about this episode. The Sword of a Thousand Truths is not a real sword, but the model for it is. It's called the Hungering Cold, and it comes from the last raid of 2006 called Naxxramas. Later on, this raid was updated in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, and another sword with the same model was released. This time it was called Slayer of the Lifeless. Do you guys get it? That which has no life? Slayer of Lifeless? It also has a note on it that reads, Foretold by Salzman. When the achievement system in the game released, one of the first to be added was called Make Love Not Warcraft. They also reference the episode in dialogue throughout the game. If you couldn't tell, Blizzard loves this episode just as much as we do. Out of all the employees who were playing WoW at South Park Studios, Junichi Nishimura was considered the best player. This is an ex-roommate of Trey's who he later hired as an animator. He also did some voice work for South Park, most notably in the Chinpokomon episode.
Oh, you must have very big penis.
The storyline for Jenkins comes out of a player apparently logging into their alpha test server that wasn't a part of the team working on this episode.
Start their own server so that the people in the office and them could all get on it and do what we needed to do for the show. And at one point while we were doing that, this random character just showed up and started running around trying to kill people.
This episode is permanently free on South Park Studios, just like it's permanently free to click the like button on this video. Oh god, that was terrible. You gotta ask though, otherwise people won't do it. All in all, this is probably South Park's most well-known episode. It's my second favorite of all time. The only reason it's not first is because I'm obsessed with Christian Rockhard, which hey, speaking of, I made a video on that episode too, which should be popping up on your screen right now. If you guys are interested, give it a watch. If not, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you for watching.